Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracy, and we are the creators of The Pump A Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chilling. We were pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Pump A Dump Podcast.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to episode 4, which we have titled
Going Down to Pound Town. We're doing it, ladies. We're going to talk about sex after babies.
We have been wanting to do this, talk about this. We talk about it a little bit on our show. But I would say that most moms would agree that sex is vastly different once you have little tiny people in your house.
Yes.
And I also think that it's interesting to talk about this in a time culturally where we're really focused on the Me Too movement and really reclaiming ourselves, and there's so much trauma associated with our sexuality at this time in the world. And I feel like it's going to be kind of nice to talk about consensual, healthy,
like having
and
fun sex,
working on healthy and
with
having
people
fun
that you
sex
love.
with people that you love.
Yeah. So we're really excited. We have an amazing expert coming in. She is a sex therapist and couples
Relationship coach.
She knows all the things. We're going to ask her all the questions.
She really does know all of the things.
Yeah.
I know her, and I cannot wait to have her on the show.
Yeah. And we're fascinated by this whole subject because, you know, moms, we definitely talk about it amongst our circles. And I think there's a lot more complaining and just like groaning like, ugh, I'm so over it or whatever. But really digging deep as to why we don't.
Why we feel that way.
Why we don't want to be touched ever.
I mean, and we're two people I think have pretty healthy sexual relationships, but I just know so many people who struggle, and it's so prevalent.
It is.
And when we talk to moms at the shows or we make these jokes at the shows, I mean, people really, really connect with it. But before we get into that and talking to Amanda, I wanted to just reflect with you for a minute, Trace, about a time before we had kids and what our sex lives were like then.
When you did like
remember,
to be touched.
Right?
All the time. Like all the time you wanted to be touched.
I mean,
yeah.
Like just such freedom.
We just didn't know how good we had it.
No, or how often.
Sure.
What a different world. And there's something so beautiful about a new relationship, you know, and new relationship, new marriage, first kisses, first sex, like all of that stuff is so
Making
magical
out.
and amazing. And so trying to recapture that once you've, like literally built a person inside your body
and then had it
and
just
then had them
excruciatingly extracted.
either extracted or pushed. Somehow they've
pulled.
been removed from your body. What that does, how fucked up that is.
Yeah.
And what that does to our brains.
Yeah. And also, like, why should we have to shrivel up? We've got the rest of our lives. I mean, these kids are going to grow up eventually, and I still want to have sex. So
yes.
How do we get back to that? How do we get back to our 20s selves, our pre-baby selves even?
Yeah. Well, apparently with a Yoni Egg, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
We got a special guest. Special guest.
I am so excited about the guests that we have today for this Going Down to Pound Town episode. Because there's
infinite possibilities.
I mean,
we don't even know where, like, we're speechless. We don't even know where to start.
So there is this is the true story. There is a mom in my son's classroom. So he goes to school with this little girl whose mom is a sex and relationship coach. And I've always been fascinated by her job. And because we are talking about it on this episode, we actually have Amanda Testa here to speak with us. She is located here in Denver, Colorado, where we are, and she is a sex and relationship coach. And I think that is really helpful for moms, and I want to talk all about it. So Amanda, say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Oh, man.
So Amanda, give us a brief, I mean, it says this all on your website, but it's so interesting. So tell us how you kind of merged into this.
Yeah, I can give a quick abridged version because
Great.
I feel like for my own journey, as you know, I was never one that woke up when I was 5 and like, I'm going to be a sex coach when I grow up.
Sure.
But
I want to meet that 5-year-old.
yeah, right. When I was after my daughter was born, she was around 18 months old, and I kind of found myself in a bit of a depression, and I thought I was doing all these great things for myself. I was working out. I was very involved in my community. And I just remember feeling resentful before the day even began, like super exhausted, as most moms typically are. And just, I remember going into the bathroom one morning and just really having no connection with that woman looking back at me in the mirror. It's like, who the hell is this woman? Like, anyway, so I just decided at that moment I would follow any crumbs that came along to help me find her again. And one of the things that I stumbled upon was my teacher and the Tantric Institute of Integrated Sexuality, where I started studying, and just the transformation in my own life. It was like this switch had been turned back on in me. And I just had this new connection to myself and my worth and just like feeling alive again, which was amazing. So I decided at that moment that I just needed to tell more women about this. And like, why does every woman not know these things? Like, this is information we've never been taught in our lives, and it would be pretty helpful if we were. So I had been studying there and got certified to be a sex coach, and that's how I started this work.
Can I just ask a quick, how does one stumble onto the Tantric Sex Institute? It's not like, I took a wrong turn and whoops, here I am. I'm just going to stay here for 2 years.
She was Googling Sting. She was like, what's Sting been up to?
I mean...
No, really. I think I was a Googling, like, how do I get my spark back, or how do I, feel
Google,
better,
tell
or
me.
who knows? I don't remember, but I
Alexa,
like randomly.
how do I get my spark back?
I found her YouTube channel. My teacher's name is Layla Martin, and she's amazing. So I found her YouTube channel with all kinds of awesome things. I was like, maybe this will just help get the spark back in the bedroom, right? I figured that could use some help. And
how old was Mimi at the time?
She was like 18 months old.
Okay.
So I love that you even acknowledged that. I feel like a lot of problems with moms is like, we know that there's an emptiness. First of all, good job looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning. I feel like I get up and it's like 1:30 in the afternoon, and then I stumble across a mirror and I'm like, oh girl, you've just talked to like 13 people already. And
listeners, Amanda looks beautiful today. You should see what Tracy and I look like. I'm literally wearing my leopard print Vionic slippers because my back hurts.
And I'm just
but you did you gave yourself a look, and but you looked through.
Yeah, but I know, but I mean, that's amazing that you even were self-aware enough at the time to even say this is something that's missing, which I think is part of the problem, is that we don't even admit that.
Well, especially when the other person is like, hey, we need to have sex, and you're just like, I'm not there yet.
I'd rather not. Thank you very much.
Thanks for liking me. I don't really feel sexy in the slightest.
Yeah.
So, but that's what you do. You help moms through this.
Yeah.
For Tracy and I, our focus is, moms, what that's like and what kind of issues we all are dealing with and how you help us.
So
help
then
us, Amanda.
I am fascinated by your story. So you watched the YouTube videos, and did you feel like immediately like you wanted to go back down to Pound Town, like you were ready to do that again? Did you feel like that was, or was it an evolution? Did it take time?
No, I mean, I think it was definitely an evolution. And I think for my own self, that I thought my sexuality was always for someone else, right? It was for my husband or whoever else, right? That I was with. It wasn't for me. Like, I don't think I really realized that I had a big part in that equation. I should be enjoying myself. I should be having fun. And, granted, my husband and I have always not really had a problem in that area. But after having a kid, it definitely falls to the bottom of the list when you can barely even, put your clothes on in the morning many days because you've got like kids
when you look like I do.
Yeah. No. I mean, I can just relate to that. But I think through this work, it was like, it definitely didn't happen overnight. It is a process, but being gentle with yourself along the way and kind of learning to redefine who you are now as a mom. And our culture definitely does not equate motherhood with being a sex goddess, right? It's like, I think our culture kind of frowns
does
upon
anyone,
that.
I mean, who is a sex goddess besides some ridiculous Kardashian?
That's true. But I just think in general, I think a lot of moms feel like once they become a mom, then that sex piece is not in the equation as much.
Yeah. Well, your body is not yours anymore. I mean, I certainly I think the most, and we talk about this in the show a lot and sing about it.
Yeah.
But, it's just that you just don't want another fucking person touching you. And it's so hard. And then there's the psychological issues, which I also want to talk about. Like, for me personally, felt, because, childbirth is, beautiful, but not beautiful. I actually referred to my vagina as Frankenpussy for a long time, right? Because I had, stitches like a lot of people do. And I still feel like I'm going to tear or something.
Oh,
like I'm
interesting.
it affected me in that way because I tore. Hello, everyone. and that affects sex, and that affects being self-conscious when somebody wants to look at you. That affects being self-conscious during intercourse, and your own pleasure.
Yeah,
right?
opening yourself up and just
Gross.
It's true though, because I mean,
I'm the one who's gross right now.
Sorry, Frankenpussy. It's
Whatever,
Halloween, you guys. Frankenpussy.
I love that costume.
I'm
right?
gonna go as Frankenpussy.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Amanda, what do you think about that?
Well, it's so true because I mean, there is a lot of trauma that happens in childbirth.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Physically, emotionally. I mean, some people have that perfect childbirth, but for the most part, it's challenging and there's all kinds of things that could happen. You just got to play the cards you're dealt. And maybe they're the ones you wanted and maybe they weren't. And maybe you have some pain and lingering nerve damage from whatever may have happened. That's a very real thing that happens.
It really is. And the other thing, I mean, and this is coming from someone who's had a lifetime of hormonal problems. Like all I've ever thought about, like since my 20s, is my crazy whacked out hormones. And even I, after I had a kid, was not even prepared or didn't even realize the massive change that your body undergoes just hormonally. No one talks about it. No doctor is like, you might want to, think about X, X, and X. There's no balance. There's no concept of that you're completely out of whack. And it may never go back to how you were even when you were pregnant, let alone before you were pregnant. And that isn't even anything that has to do with you psychologically. That's just physiologically.
Right.
And we don't even know that about ourselves.
I think there's definitely a lack of information for women out there when it comes to childbirth and what to expect. I mean, I think someone was telling me the other day, I can't remember where I heard this, but like, to get a license to drive, you have to like pass a test. But at least there's some information there. Like, I think there should be more information about here's what to expect after you have your baby.
Oh my gosh.
This is total normal. And then all your hair is going to fall out and all these things that no one tells you.
Yeah.
Right? And you go through it and you're just questioning, like, am I crazy? I think I might be fucking crazy because, I mean, and plus you're sleep deprived and your hormones are going crazy. So
Yeah.
it's like, no wonder that we struggle like we do.
And I think we'll get back to more sex talk, but I think Shay and I were just talking about this, that the more I've learned in my own like postpartum journey and hearing so many women's stories, and I had a C-section, but it's still the same. So I realized like later that I have like no core. I mean, it was just cut open and left to dry and not heal properly. But then women who have vaginal births, like pelvic floor health is so important. And that's not even anything gynecologists really talk about to their patients. And we don't, how could you have good sex if your pelvic floor is a hot, like gloopy mess? And we don't ever talk about it, or we don't even know. Like you said, there's no postpartum healthcare for women in any shape or form.
Well, there now I think there are organizations that are getting better. Like I know like the Boulder Birth Center is really good about that kind of stuff.
If you seek it out,
Right.
But it's not like standard. I mean, not to go on a feminist rant, but if a man had a baby, can you imagine the like
They would get like 2 years
would have, like,
paternity leave.
yeah, well, and it's like what's like the recuperation process would be so integral and like hands on and just
Yeah.
And then women, they're just like, oh, you just did that. You just
Well, no one
ripped-
even checked me when I left the hospital. They left gauze inside of me for 5 days. That affected me psychologically.
affected
right?
me psychologically.
on now all of you. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's crazy. So anyway, I guess this is our long intro to give everyone don't be so hard on yourselves, because look at all that we're
Yeah,
up
the only
against.
person who ever like had a baby and had probably zero problems is Joanna Gaines. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest.
She just weaved a Hearth and Home basket out of her beautiful long hair. They're selling it at Target for $29.99.
God bless
bless
those
her.
two. I mean, I really hope that Joanna and Chip are as happy as we all think they are. I feel like they're like a beacon in this dark America that we all like look to. Like,
Who knows?
Chip's like, that's okay, Joanna.
He's
I'll
like,
just go
here,
over
put
here
this what is it called? A yo egg? Put this egg
Jade
in you.
egg.
Put this jade egg in you and everything will be fine.
And she's like, okay,
No problem.
But I don't need to because I'm just totally fine. It just all went sucked back in. But Amanda, that's you are a Jade Egg expert.
What does that mean?
I have been trained and certified to teach women how to properly use a jade egg. And that's one of the things that there's a lot of misnomers out there about
Because of
how
goop.
it actually works.
Because of Gwyneth.
Or that you might just like stick it in and expect a miracle. But like anything, it's a practice and there's a proper way to do it so you don't actually damage your pelvic floor or make it even more tight or have, there's all kinds of things that can
So
happen.
let's bring it back. Explain what the F is a Jade Egg.
Okay, this is a good question. So you might have heard the term Yoni Egg or Jade Egg.
Okay, is that the same thing?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And there's different stones out there, but the way I was taught is based in the Taoist tradition where it's jade. And basically it's an egg, like a regular egg. It looks like an egg that's
Like
made
the
out of
shape
jade.
of an egg.
Yep. And then it's kind of like yoga for your vagina. So you'll put it inside you and you'll do some exercises with it. But it's kind of, there's more to it than that. But just to basically describe what it is, that's how it works. And through this process, you can kind of learn how to properly train your pelvic floor muscles so that you can, enjoy better sensate focus. And I love the sound effect. If you're doing it right, your body
really
should
upsetting.
take it in. If not, don't force it in when your body says
Oh,
no.
really?
Yeah,
How do
that's
you
a big
get
thing.
it out?
You can put a string in it. You string it with like unwaxed dental floss. So you can easily, it's not going to get lost up there. People worry about that, but there's really nowhere for it to go. So it will come out, but it makes people feel
I don't know. Tracy doesn't have a cervix anymore.
Well, we'll talk about that one later.
I'll edit it out.
Okay.
Well,
I was going to ask. I'm like,
It's
where
just
would
a
it go?
cavern. It just goes
well,
and goes.
for many women that have had hysterectomies or this, that, and the other, they typically suture the vaginal canal. And I guess it depends on how your surgeon. Many times they'll leave the cervix. Sometimes they won't.
Oh
It
no,
just kinda depends.
I got cleaned out. It was a hot mess in there, and it was. But
She's
I do
got
have
12 yoni eggs in there.
Nice. she had a whole dozen. No, just kidding.
She's got
like
a
I
dozen
can't have any more babies, but I can give birth to yoni eggs.
yoni eggs all day long.
But I do actually feel like it's like there's like a dark cavern inside me. Like if you
God.
don't have a cervix, could I stick one up there? I mean, I'm all in. I'm all for yoni eggs. That feels like something very like anyone. That feels like a good place to start.
Can I go back to how you trained?
Yes.
Just speak. Okay.
I just want to know what happened. Like, did you put one in front of someone?
So basically, part of my training through the Tantric Institute, I did 600 hours as a sex, love, and relationship coach, and then additional about 100 or so hours to be trained as a Jade Egg coach. And basically, it's really learning about the body, learning how this process works, doing a million practices yourself, teaching others how to do it. And it's really an amazing process. And I think one of the things that it can be kind of seem out there and strange to some people, but what I love about it is it actually gives you a physical tool to kind of use when you're working on, healing your pelvic floor and activating your sensuality and your sexuality. We have this energy within us, and that's kind of in the Taoist philosophy. We all have this energy, this jing that you can use, and I feel like we haven't ever been taught how to utilize it.
Not in America.
Not in
I mean,
America,
for
for
Pete's
sure.
sakes.
But you can note, if you really work with it, it's amazing how you can, as moms, any way we can find more energy, I'm all about it. And so for me, I was like, holy shit, this is at our fingertips, and I never knew. That's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about sharing it.
So we get the Jade Egg. We learn how to properly. Now, do you recommend you take a class before you stick it in you, or do you think it's okay to like do it like instinctively?
Just
The other
The sound I want to make is the.
oh my God. This is going to be the 5-hour episode on yoni eggs.
Oh, man.
Okay, so
I'm into it.
Okay, tell us.
So basically, yes, I would recommend that you learn how to use it. And it's not very complicated. It's just simple things that you can learn. But typically, that when you create this kind of practice around it, and I kind of like to look at it as like you have this little, kind of sacred sexuality date with yourself, which, could be like hashtag self-care. Joking.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Just
no.
jokes.
But it's like honestly, we are so trapped on time as it is. I always like, how can you intentionally add this into something you're already doing?
I was literally already multitasking while you're saying that. I'm like, can I jade egg and take a bath?
Yes, that's how I love to do it.
It
Because
doesn't float out?
no. I mean, because when you have kids, especially, it's like that's kind of one of the only times you can get some free time is if you lock yourself in the bathroom.
Oh, I could
And-
never lock it.
Well, wait, can I ask a question though about, because I'm still just a little bit confused. You're saying that putting the jade egg in and using it not only as a muscular exercise, but it also creates like some sort of like newfound energy sexually.
Well, jade is like a sacred stone that like, I mean, has been around for centuries.
It definitely, I mean, here's the thing. Most women have not really ever taken time to actively think about, how can I connect with my sexual energy, right? It's not something most women think about. I mean, we never have been taught to, especially in this culture.
That's
but
a sentence I've actually never said to myself. How can I connect with my sexual energy?
no one would.
Oh.
Have you ever asked yourself that?
I mean, I think that I've felt sexy a lot of my life.
Oh, agree. I'm just saying, like, actually ask yourself, am I connected? You know, it's like, I feel like when you feel sexy, it's like a surprise, like, oh yeah, I'm in, like, let's do this right now.
Oh, but like,
Like consciously.
and not just like masturbating. I
Right.
love that I said that as if you couldn't hear what I said. Masturbating.
Yeah. Like how can I get better biceps? How can I,
Get a better
how can
vagina.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, but there's something to it that definitely helps to increase your sensate focus. So when you're doing the practices, it helps you to connect with the nerve endings there better. So you have more pleasure when you have sex because you are, connecting with the nerves there. You're paying attention to it. And when you focus on something, it's going to tend to blossom a bit. If
Okay.
that makes sense.
So I'm a mom. I'm yes, that's true. But also, okay, so I'm any other mom, and I am having no sexual feelings. I've just had children. Everyone wants my body. I'm not really into my partner. He needs it. I'm not really feeling it. I come to you. This is one of the first things you might recommend.
So actually the first thing I would recommend is, if you look at your hierarchy of needs, right? The first basic thing is you need to make sure your basic needs are being met, which is a new mom, it's very hard. Like, are you getting enough sleep?
No.
No.
Are you eating well? Probably not because you can't find time to eat.
Yeah.
What you can shove in your mouth as you multitask.
Sure.
It's kind of like the first step is to really create a base layer of care for yourself and supporting, it's asking for help, which is another hard thing sometimes for women is maybe you need to ask a neighbor for help, or maybe you need to join some kind of mom's group where you share the caregiving for your kids if you can't afford a babysitter, but somehow finding ways to give yourself a minute, even if it's just a minute, because it's just like you mentioned, like there's always someone clawing at your body. You never can even take a breath. And then at the end of the day, the last thing you want is someone to touch you. You're like, no touching, please.
Right.
So it's like kind of making sure that you are putting yourself on the list a little bit, even if it just means like, all right, when your partner gets home, they're going to take over for 10 minutes so you can go to the bathroom in peace, or even if it's just 5 minutes. I mean,
Never going to happen.
Or a neighbor or a friend. I think that's one of the things that
Sister wives are key.
Yeah, you have to have that. And I know for myself, I did not, when I first had my daughter, most of my friends, their kids were older or they didn't have kids. And so I really had to make a strong effort to make friends.
Find
Again,
your community.
that's hard. But anyways, I found like babysitting co-ops and this, that, and the other. Like it just takes effort, but it's doable. And the results are so worth the effort because then you have that support. Because I think especially in our day and age, we are living in a silo. Like women don't have that connection like they used to where, you don't leave your hometown.
Your
and
village.
Everybody's taking care
Yeah.
of everybody else's kids and,
Like
Okay.
Dallas.
Dallas.
I mean, we've been to Dallas several times. I literally
Oh.
feel like that city is like these amazing communities of moms
That's
who
true.
all
They
help
all
each
love
other
each
out.
other
Like,
so hard.
God bless you, Dallas.
We do love you. Okay, so step one is taken care of. You've done that. You're eating.
When does the Yoni
better?
Egg come?
Yep. Get to the good
Yeah.
stuff.
And so this is part of that is because if you can create like this little time for yourself where you can do this practice and you're working on strengthening your pelvic floor, you're working on like kind of creating this sensate focus again and connecting. And actually you want to wait until, at least you've been 8 weeks postpartum, I would say, or maybe even longer, because honestly, that beginning time, your main focus, as hard as it is to really connect with and bond and take care of yourself and the baby, right?
I don't think this episode is about 8 weeks.
No,
This
no.
episode is about 2 years
Yeah,
and
and I
5 years
honestly think-
postpartum.
and I mean, I think, you
when
know,
it starts to get real rough.
yeah. I mean, unless you've been doing the practice before you had a kid, I would maybe, you know, it is honestly, you sometimes have to just wait until you're healed physically and
Sure.
emotionally. Like it takes time.
So,
So being gentle with yourself in the process. But
okay, so how long do you have?
Oh, you're back to the Yoni.
Well, yeah,
so
no, yeah.
she wants the details. Which
Oh, I
get.
need the
You need the
details.
details. So you kind of create the space and you need to kind of warm yourself up, right? So giving yourself a little massage, whatever it takes to kind of get your connected to your body.
Light a candle.
Breath work, whatever. And then you usually, the practice is about 10, 15 minutes. If you want to do it quick and easy, even 5, if that's all the time you have. I love, like, once you get more used to the practice, the practices that I teach are typically 45 minutes to an hour. You usually have the Jade Egg in for maybe 15, 20 minutes of that. But part of it is, you know, it's like the self-pleasure piece.
Okay.
You know, there's different ways you can work with the Jade Egg. You can use it just to focus on pleasure. You can use it to heal and like release and somatically release trauma from your body, which is really good postpartum. And, you know, sadly in this day and age, many women have trauma in their histories. So it just
Sure.
helps. I personally was in therapy for 7 years for trauma that I had, sexual violence that happened to me. And working with the Jade Egg was so healing, like in ways that I never even could have thought, because it's something about, you know, your body holds on to the cellular memory, like remembers
Yes.
trauma. So you need to actually release it from the cells. So that helps you to do that.
Yeah.
Or you could focus on, you know, like connecting to your primal self. Like there's so many ways you can do it. You can have so much fun with it.
So do you have an orgasm with the egg in you?
Yes, you want.
Is
I
that-
mean, that's
is that
not the
the-
goal,
Oh,
but
it's
you
not?
often do, and that's kind of the fun part.
It's just up there and all of a sudden you're like, oh, really? It just happens?
I mean, once you get used to like working the muscles,
be right
and,
back.
like, if you like to self pleasure, I'm telling you, it is so fun to play with. I mean, like any.
Well, that's a good transition, right? Self-pleasure. So I feel like a lot of women in general never learned or don't do this. And it's difficult, right? So now you've had babies, your partner wants you. Do you still find time for the self-pleasure? I mean, finding that time, right, is like totally besides the time that you already have to find for your partner. Like how do you balance all of it?
Well, I think part of that is learning what turns you on, and you have to figure that out for yourself. Like sometimes it's really important to take time for yourself to remember what turns you on, or what do you like? What touches this? Do I like this? Do I not like this? And having that time to explore with yourself. You can also do it with your partner too, with your husband or your partner, because one of the things that's, I think when you have a new baby and you're trying to make time for everything, and, you know, people always like put their nose up at like scheduling time to be together or scheduling sex or this, that, and the other. But, you know, life is busy and you're not going to get to it if you don't. And I think it's taking sex off the table when you have these times to connect. It's just like, let's just play, right?
I have an interesting theory about scheduling sex because I went through so many fertility treatments and had to schedule sex. It's literally makes me like nervous. Like I'll never do it. I like it for both of us, frankly. It's not, and I think anyone who went through fertility, it's like literally we would have to be like, okay, we leave work, meet, do it. Then my legs go up and I check my emails while I'm like waiting, and
like a pillow
there's
under your-
nothing sexual about it all, and it ruined a lot of stuff for us. So when I hear scheduled sex, I think of that, but then I also think, is it like, are you forcing it on each other, or are you just saying it's making space for it? And then, but then it's like, do you start to resent it because you're like, I have this appointment I have to make, and what if you just don't want to do it at that point?
Well, that's a really good point that you bring up. And I think that the scheduling sex thing, if you have had to go through fertility, that is an issue. And it's kind of like rewiring your brain that, okay, this is not just something that we're working to get a goal. This is not like the goal is to get pregnant. The goal is to have an orgasm. Like there's no goal. The goal is to connect and to because I think the thing is that we have, and I love, there's a book called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, who I adore. She's an amazing sex educator. But basically,
COME.
yeah, COME, come as you are.
Love it.
But basically, she talks about as women, we have what's called responsive desire. So it's not necessarily that we are turned on. But if we are with someone that we love and admire, our husbands or our partners, and we connect with their body, and like have them touch us and be like, oh yeah, wait, my body remembers that this feels good. Oh wait, my body remembers, your body starts releasing oxytocin and the chemicals start going. And then you kind of can get into the mood. It's just reminding, taking that time to connect, which when your body is there and it remembers, oh wait, I love this person. I do like to connect with this person.
That.
Well, it's also getting out of your head. This is something Tracy and I talked about the other day. Like, we have a girlfriend who, whenever she has to have
I know.
sex.
Well, that's the thing. It's the default.
She goes into the bathroom and she looks herself in the mirror and she like jumps up and down and like shakes her arms and like and just goes and like gets herself ready, because it really is a mental shift, right? And I found that in my own experience, just like trying to kind of get back to a place where we had a healthy sex life again. I realized at some point that it really was this mental shift. And then as soon as you shift your brain and kind of get out of your brain and into your body, that shifted in our world. And I think a lot of things, once you kind of do it, once you're, kind of like what you're talking with the Yoni Egg, like you're starting to like kind of release these tensions and these things, then everything kind of changes. And the other thing I want to say is that recently, now that my kids are older and they're sometimes not at the house, like I feel like there are so many years when your kids go to sleep and then you're trying to have sex then. Now they're at a point where sometimes they're, at a play date or at a, they're just not at the house. So I discovered after like 6 years that making noise during sex, I'd forgotten about it and what a difference that makes in your pleasure. And now it's kind of bad because now I'm just like, oh no, honey, they're home. So I only want to do it when they're not, so I can just be loud, because it's so much more pleasurable to just let go. Because for all these years, we've been like Scientology sex, where your orgasms are just...
yeah, I mean, what mom out there hasn't like shoved her face in a pillow at some point? It's depressing. I mean...
Unless you like that.
Well, sure. But I also like the thing that there's no goal. Like maybe you actually don't even end up having sex. Like it's just... to remember that you like each other, which I think is
yeah, that's good I don't think that's going to work for the dude though.
Well, I don't know. Why would, that's the whole point. Why does it always have to work for him? Why can't it work for both of you?
Well, but and y'all can write me and be mad at me if you want. I feel like part of our healthy sexual relationship is knowing that like he has certain needs that I can meet and I have certain needs that he can meet.
But I also think it's exploring like to that. I want to go back to one thing you said earlier about your friend who went to the bathroom and was like shaking it
herself.
Off. That's actually what I like to teach women too, is to create a transition ritual, if you will. And so whatever that is for you, it is giving you that mind shift. So if it's going to the bathroom and shaking like that, because that actually shaking is a really good way to release tension and stress. And somatically, it's a beautiful way to just let
But don't shake with the Yoni Egg inside you.
You can once your pelvic floor muscles are strong enough, you can shake with it in. But yeah, so that's just
it'll
something.
crack your tile if it drops out. then you're just mad.
But you won't be so mad because you're all turned on. You'll be like, we'll fix
sure.
that. No. But anyway, so the transition ritual is a big piece of it, because you can't expect to go from like 0 to 60, right? You need some level of like feeling good in your body and in whatever way that takes. And honestly, for me, a lot of times it's just going to the bathroom and washing my face, because like that 2 minutes, it's like, okay.
Well, that's nice.
It's just something, it can be something really simple. And once your body kind of gets that key, it remembers like, okay, now it's time to have fun, or now it's time to feel pleasure. Or now
it's not just scrolling through Instagram in bed. That's not a good transition.
Yeah. So,
because then, not to be stereotypical, but men typically can go from 0 to 60. Like they don't need to wash their face and have some sort of like premeditative exercise.
I mean, it's the difference between testosterone and estrogen, right? Like we're two different birds. And I think for many women, it can take as long as 45 minutes to get fully engorged and aroused and like ready, because we have a lot of erectile tissue as well. And, it takes longer for women a lot of the times to get that fully engorged and ready. And so I think there's a huge problem of people having penetration before they're ready a lot of the times. And that's why it's painful.
So now I see why you're a couples therapist, because it's like, I feel like we started this where it's like all on the women to make themselves feel more sexual, but it also has to do with whomever you're doing it with. Like it's their responsibility you guys have to be on the same pace, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you just feel like, well, I'm not there yet, but he is. So I'm just gonna this is how it is.
And the other thing too, like you mentioned, if you really don't want to have sex at this time. I mean, there's like non-penetrative ways to enjoy each other, right?
Sure.
So you can
Yeah.
explore
Oh,
and
yeah.
play. Like that's kind of what, if you have these play dates, so to speak, and kind of think about your little kid playing in the sandbox. Like, let's try this.
I
or,
don't want to think
let's
about my
try that.
kid.
Exactly. But
I
for
mean-
an adult, you're playing in your
Amanda.
own sandbox of the bed. Right. It's like, just making space for you to play and explore and, be able to bring new ideas and things in without judgment. Because, it's like, I think it was, who's the guy, Dan Savage? I listened to him say this one time. He's like, if your partner gets off on massaging your feet, like how bad is that really? I mean, he's not asking that much from you. And maybe you might enjoy it. So it's like, things may seem weird, but just trying them out. And maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But you can always say, no, you're not into it. You obviously are always in control of your own body. You can always say no. And, but just being open to trying new things sometimes is something that we forget in long-term partnership.
For sure.
Right? And you don't want to, maybe one partner's afraid to say, well, I want to try this because my partner will judge me. And then maybe they, then a part of themselves can't be fully expressed. Right.
Yeah.
And I
it's
just like the option part because I feel like we have so many friends who, either aren't currently enjoying sex or
Yeah.
don't want to have sex or feel pressured. But if that schedule doesn't involve you actually having to do just like the normal course of action and you can just play during that time, I feel like that just like personally that just like makes me think, oh, well, this isn't like such a bad thing. It's
But
like
you
a
have
fun
to
thing.
really like your partner and be willing to play. And I think that's what's happened.
Well, that has
is
to be
this
mutual.
relationship. The relationship, there's so much resentment, right? When you have babies as the mom versus the dad. And that's just, I feel like a very natural thing that happens. And so getting through that with your clients and really helping them through loving their partner again, I think is probably like you said, step one. How do you take care of these other needs before you can really like go down to Pound Town? Being willing to play with a partner and not just, because honestly, sometimes it's nice to just have a quickie
Well, that's
and be
what
like,
it-
all right,
well,
5
sure.
minutes, just
Oh,
get it
God,
done.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of fun to come in it with that attitude. It's like, all right, we got 5 minutes. How can we make this as pleasurable as possible for 5 minutes?
Oh, that's positive.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you, when you do the couples part, like, what do dads feel? I mean, we've talked about women and women are resentful, but like, are dads scared to like touch their partners after they have babies? I mean, is it psychologically
sure.
weird for dudes?
Yeah, sometimes for sure, because they are afraid they'll hurt their partner. I mean, and honestly, your partner wants to please you. I mean, they want to please you. And I think sometimes that's the challenge is if you've gotten into these habits where maybe you don't enjoy sex, then you're not enjoying it. And then they know you're not enjoying it. So no one's having fun. And so then you can get to the situation where you just don't have sex or don't even talk about it. And next thing you know, it's like, you're looking back and you're like, wow, dude, when was the last time we had sex? Like, I can't even remember when that was. And I think at that point, it's just kind of starting to reconnect slowly. You got to just start somewhere and kind of have that agreement that, all right, if we're going to be either in it or out of it, right? And so for the time that we're working on this together, we're 100% in, and we are going to do whatever we can to serve the relationship and each other in a way that, obviously not going beyond your boundaries or, but just like making it so that you're not giving to get something in return. You're just
that's
giving because you
interesting.
love the person. Because I
Oh.
think a lot of times, and this will happen, like you're like, well, I did this, so you have to do that. Or,
Oh,
I did this, so
sure.
you have to do that. And that comes into that resentment around, well, now I feel like I have to have sex because you did this, or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because so many.
Oh,
I hear
sure.
that
I mean,
all the
we
time.
all,
It's like,
we all say that like, oh, you got a handbag. So now you got to give a blowjob.
But you know what, though? I think that sometimes in a healthy relationship, that's okay. Like there are certainly times that I will give the BJ simply because I know how happy it
Well,
makes
that's what
him.
she's saying. Yeah.
It's like you just do it for fun. And the more, and the other thing too, like you mentioned, if people aren't having good sex, then why would you want to?
Right.
Like your brain is going to be wired to send you to what is pleasurable and what is safe. And if your body is not feeling safe or not feeling pleasure, why would it want to engage in something that doesn't give him those things? And
Right.
and when you are in those resentment or anger, the amygdala, the fight or flight part of your brain gets activated. So you're not looking to connect. You're like trying to protect yourself.
And that's why you can't orgasm.
And
or
that's why you
something.
can't relax.
Oh,
or-
that's interesting. That's really interesting. It's interesting when you were talking about like self-pleasure, I was thinking we talk about this, I don't know, on when we're taking after the shows and we're talking to moms. I actually think I'd be interested to see what you say. I think a lot more moms actually do masturbate on their own instead of having sex because it's a lot easier and like more controlled. And I just feel like I've had so many conversations after the shows with women that are like, oh yeah, that's the whole joke. Like my vibrator is my best friend that you take your partner out of the equation. Is that common, or is that just something I'm...
Well, no, that can happen too, because it's that always feeling like someone wants a piece of you, right?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, someone's always pulling at you. And so it's all about the rewiring your mindset around it, right? And it's awesome to take that time for yourself. But if it comes to the detriment of connecting at all with your partner, then you have to look at it as, do I want this fulfilling relationship? Because, and everybody's situation is different. And I like how this is another thing that I learned from Emily Nagoski is that, it's like pleasure is the measure. So if you're enjoying your sex life, if you're enjoying your relationship, if you're both happy, then it's working. All's good. If one or the other of you is not, or if both of you are not happy, then that's when you need to decide, like, do we want to work on this? Are we going to just agree to be where we are? I mean, it's like you have to figure out how important it is to you and before you're going to make a change. Like, what is it worth to you?
What's normal? What's considered normal? Tracy and I
we're dying
so
to
curious. How many times a week
are
like the healthiest relationships having sex? Like, I need the information to take
know.
back to my husband.
We need actual numbers. Well, yeah.
Well, this is good. And I'm not going to share any actual statistics because this goes along with my thing of like, what feels good to you and your partner? Like, what feels good? And that's the right number for you.
But it's different for the man than it is for the woman.
That
because
is true.
he would be like 3 times a week, totally average. And I would be like, you're fucking crazy.
Well, but I love that what you're saying is that it's not just about the one person. You have to be like mutually decide on that number.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, everyone reads like in Cosmo, oh, well, if you're not doing it 3 times a week, or if you're not doing it 6 times a month, then something's wrong. But that takes a lot of pressure off if you're like, well, if that's just not for you two, then don't worry about it.
So there is no answer.
But we do want an answer.
I know. Well, like I say, it's like what works for you.
So in the sex world, do you anatomically, is there a preferred number of times?
Again, it's so different for the man than the woman.
And it isn't, because testosterone is very driven. Like,
I don't care about men. I'm talking about women.
But yeah. And estrogen wants more of a slow opening. And that's what I love too about the tantric philosophy is like women need to open up. They need to have, they need to feel really
loud
open.
sex.
They need, it's you got to start with the outside and work your way in. So if you think of like a spiral staircase, for the woman, first it's like the very outside. So maybe that's the ambiance. Like honestly, if a man would take the 5 minutes to like clean up the bedroom and light a candle, imagine how different things would be. Just that 2 minute, 30 seconds.
Just a clean bedroom, frankly.
So like that's kind of the out of the spiral, and then working your way in versus like testosterone. They're like, you can start right and grab their, grab their stuff
grab them by the pussy,
grab them by the balls. And no, don't want to say that, but yeah, for men, they're good with that. They're like, let's go. And women need more of an opening. And I think that's kind of where so much problems can come in, because they don't really realize how to relate to one another.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, so what is tantric sex then? I mean, we heard Sting, 25 years ago talk about it, and it's stuck in everyone's mind. And I just imagine it's this, like, I could never do it, because you have to set aside like 4.5 hours to orgasm, like for half the day. Is that what tantric sex is? I have no idea.
I love it. I think that if you want to have a 4-hour episode, that is so lovely, and that is not realistic for many people. So it's like, how can I make this and bring it into my own life in a way that's easy, right? So I'll tell you some quick things. Number one is you can always have an intention about your time together. So create some kind of intention around it. So it's like, maybe this is going to be, we're consecrating this lovemaking session to our partnership and our relationship and just the gift that we found each other, whatever it is. And then you can also just breathe together. So breathing together is big, because so you're going to be kind of
but no one likes to be breathed on. So
yeah.
Are you separate from there? I no hot breath for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is one of the things you want to try. This is an easy little meditation you can try. So you can do this sitting across from each other. If you're not ready to do it in a more intimate way, like you could be on his lap, but you could just even sit across from each other, and you start by looking into each other's eyes, which that is a very challenging thing for many people.
Hard. Well, no one looks at anyone anymore.
But you take in that time to look in each other's eyes. The eye gazing is big. Then kind of start to synchronize your breath. And then you can imagine that you can put your hand on your heart and your other hand goes on your partner's heart and just kind of visualize this like energy going back and forth in an infinity loop between your hearts. So like you're giving and receiving love to each other. So on the exhale, you're giving your love to your partner, and on the inhale, you're receiving love from your partner. So you can have this little loop going. And then you can just kind of do that for a minute or two. Even that is a way to simplify and bring some tantric connection in.
That's nice.
That's so nice.
Now, does anyone else have an opinion about French kissing?
Like at this table?
Yeah.
I love kissing.
I love kissing
I've always
too.
loved kissing.
And sometimes it's so fun to just make out. Like
Well,
that.
that's, I mean, that's something that I think we all miss from like the honeymoon days of just getting to know a partner is like makeout sessions are the best because there wasn't any expectation because you didn't know each other well enough. And now I feel the older you get, it's like, well, if you don't end in, you know, the grand finale, like it doesn't count or something. But I don't know. I love kissing.
Yeah.
You don't?
What are your thoughts?
You have the strangest face right now.
No, I'm fine. I'm trying to be better about the kissing. I think that you just get into this routine.
Well, yeah.
And you just forget. And then I get all like, oh, my mouth tastes awful. You know, like I'm just like, oh God, I've just, you know, and instead of like maybe, you know, the transition ritual could be like brushing your teeth,
wash your face. I love
getting
this.
like a little bit more, because I feel like it's so easy to just like get it done. And it's not that it's not pleasurable or that I don't enjoy my partner in just getting it done. But, you know, bringing back those things like from 18 years ago could be a nice
because like, yeah, remember like
way
when
to
you
reconnect.
had to make sure you were showered, you know, and now it's like moms don't shower. I mean, what if you just took a shower before? Like you know, I feel like that's all
that you feel better. I mean, he doesn't care or shouldn't care.
Sure. Well, or he should, or do it together or whatever. But I think it's funny, all these things that we think are cliche, you know, like you see in the movies, like, oh, they have to take a shower first. But if you actually think about it for yourself and for your partner, it makes total sense.
Well, it's kind of like the same thing to having a, you know, when you used to date, you knew Friday night you were going on a date. So what would you do before your date? Probably get excited.
You shave your winter bush. That's what you do.
Not anymore, but back then,
yeah,
sure.
I know. You cut that shit down.
And so it's kind of exciting.
Can I touch it? Oh, you're like the sound effect, like radio lady today.
I had some coffee today.
I love it.
So maybe consider shaving down the winter bush, you know, just for a regular Friday night. And
Just bleach your butthole. Let's get real.
I mean, if that's your thing, I guess.
teach whatever you're into is totally cool.
I have questions about that, but that's for another
that's a whole
episode.
other thing. Okay, we have a game. Can we play a game with you?
love it.
Okay, so you have one in front of you. It's multiple choice, and it's called Stump the Sexpert.
Ooh, gosh.
And one of these answers is real, and the other ones are not the answer, just like any multiple choice.
Wow, we really came up with a creative.
But I want to tell you that these answers, we found them on the World Wide Web. So they're obviously true.
Sure.
But feel free to discuss any of these issues. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, Tracy, hit it.
A study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science found that people tend to marry people with A, similar finances, B, similar DNA, C, similar taste in cuisine, or D, similar haircuts.
I love it. That's a good question. I'm saying C.
Cuisine?
Interesting.
I will say I am madly in love with my husband. I've been married a million years, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we do absolutely agree on food.
Oh.
Like 100%.
Yeah, sure.
I think because, you know, it's like a lot of the attraction that you have for someone is biological. So like if you like the way they smell, if you like, that's a really great sign because that means, you know, you've got that chemical connection. And so sometimes food is.
Well, the answer is actually DNA, but that kind of explains what you were saying.
I was thinking it could be DNA too, because we are often drawn to someone that reminds us of someone in our childhood.
Really?
Really?
I think I was drawn to Chris because he was
Hendricks.
so completely opposite than
I was
anybody
gonna
in my
say-
life.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's some interesting studies around that.
To marry me or Shay, you've got to not be like me or Shay.
There you go.
Like at
Totally
all.
true.
Okay. According to a study from the University of
Sure. The Netherlands.
from the Netherlands, sexual arousal overrides the body's natural disgust response Sexual arousal overrides the body's natural odor, overrides the body's natural urge to pee, or overrides the body's natural love of cats.
Let's see. Is it, I would say either A or B, disgust response or, urge to pee.
So it's disgust response, which is fascinating because remember when you didn't need to brush your teeth before French kissing?
Right.
Like you never smelled bad breath. Like you
No.
just smelled so good in the passionate
Well,
moment.
and so much of what we hear, you know, when you're talking among friends is that you are actually kind of turned off by your husband. So like you would be back turned on if you just were aroused. It's like a bad feedback loop.
Well, pleasure and pain both are originated in the same part of the brain. And so when you are, and also when you are kind of turned on, your sexual turn on overrides the frontal cortex a little bit. So those
Okay.
things that you would normally
Find
pick
gross.
about, you
Right.
aren't going to be connected to.
Sure. Okay.
Well, and that was the article that I found this question on was talking about like the secretions during sex. Like people, it's super messy and people just don't give a shit when they're turned
sure.
on.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting busy between the sheets for an hour can blast as many calories as A, a Costco trip, B, watching 2 seasons of The Crown, C, pushing a kid on the swings, or D, 30 minutes of jogging.
30 minutes of jogging.
Correct. Good
It
job.
does take a lot of calories to watch The Crown, though.
2 seasons.
It's worth it. I mean, Claire Foy for
you can
president.
burn like a whole
but-
100 calories in 2 seasons.
I know. Brain calories. Okay. One in every 5 couples has A, a kid sleeping in their bed, B, a sexless marriage, C, separate bank accounts, or D, a sex swing.
Kids sleeping in the bed.
That's probably true, but we made that one up. It's probably true.
It's probably could be the sexless marriage.
It is. And I was shocked to hear that. But it makes sense because I feel like it's super common.
One in
And kids in
5.
the bed do lead to
And
sex.
that's, yeah. It's,
Sure.
how many people have sex swings? Is that really a thing?
You know, I'm sure if you have the right setup, you could. Sadly, a lot
Yeah, I
of these
would
older
never
bungalows,
trust
they
it.
don't
Yeah.
really have a good space to mount them to the.
I mean,
Sure.
even if I wanted to,
beams.
the anxiety of hanging there waiting to crash would just ruin it for me every
or your
time.
kids would be playing on it and kind of
Oh my God.
turn it off.
I
Right?
would really mess that up.
Okay.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yeah.
People who blank are 40% more likely to divorce. A, snore. B, chew with their mouth open. C, endure more than 45-minute commute. Or D, cosplay.
Is it snore?
We
Yes.
made that one up too.
I'm just thinking because like if people are unhappy and they don't sleep, that is a big cause of like sadly
sure.
they like then start to sleep in separate bedrooms and then they don't connect anymore
Yeah.
and that goes down the journey. of
Right.
Well, the internet says it's people who endure more than 45-minute commute.
Interesting.
They're more likely to divorce. That's fascinating.
Fascinating.
Maybe because they're so stressed.
Sure.
I mean, I would imagine.
Yeah, you come home cranky, then it's just it's just bad. Okay. Most married couples are happiest in A, their 3rd year of marriage, B, their 3rd year of children, C, their 3rd year of therapy, or D, threesomes.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Probably their 3rd year of marriage, I would say.
You're correct.
Yeah.
How about 12th? All right. Most women are unable to climax through vaginal intercourse. Instead, they need A, their partner to do the dishes, B, 50 Shades of Grey, C, a spa day, or D, clitoral stimulation.
That would be D.
It is
And
true.
A.
And A, and B, and C.
I mean,
They
no
all- they
man
all-
really realizes what a clean kitchen and a clean bedroom will do for any woman's,
Game changer.
total game changer.
It's that closing the mind of all the to-dos. You know, the less of the to-dos that are on your mind, the more you can surrender and open and relax. Like
And the fact that he's thought about what might make you happy
Exactly.
just emotionally, which is help.
Sure. Help. Yeah.
Any help.
Okay, 21% of men admit to watching porn at A, the gym, B, work, C, the gas station, D, a funeral.
work.
That's correct.
Gross.
Gross. A study found that women directly exposed to semen vaginally, in other words, sex without a condom, A, got pregnant, B, were less depressed, C, had fuller lips, or D, changed their underwear more often. Just walking around like a cum bucket.
Oh, Yes, I would say A or B because you can get pregnant that way. But also,
I couldn't
would
get
say
pregnant
less
that way.
less
Tracy can.
depressed.
Yeah, it's the internet says less depressed. I think you're correct with A or B.
Yeah, because you do have all these good hormones that you are running through your body when the more orgasms you have. So,
But if we were just given a little bit of help from, God or whoever, like if we could just get fuller lips, wouldn't it help everybody? Like, wouldn't everyone be happier? Like if semen actually did something for the woman besides just get her pregnant, like, don't you think everyone would be a little bit more into it? Yeah. Okay. Last question. A sex therapy course that's currently being offered. Okay. You might know about these. Is it A, the slutty sock hop 10K, B, pussy night at the OK Corral, C, fuel for the bedroom cooking class date night for couples, or D, discover your inner anal?
well, I wouldn't be surprised. There's probably something for everyone out there, but I would say C or D sounds most.
Oh, she bought the inner anal. It's C.
Yeah,
C.
fuel for the bedroom cooking
It
class
is.
date night. for
Cooking
couples.
class. That's really cute. I love that idea. Cooking class date night for couples. Fuel for the bedroom.
I mean,
I guess
that's
it depends what you're cooking.
it's a tall order for
It is
food. I mean, don't do pasta because you're like bloated and full. You just want to like watch The Crown.
Burn some calories.
Burn some calories over the crown. Oh man. Well, you really are a sexpert.
You really are.
You've got the answers.
So let's sum this up with some. What can we offer our mom listeners out there? So you've given us a lot of tips. I've learned a lot. But like, what are like 3 things you can do today?
That's good. I would say number 1 is take a few minutes and write down things that you want for yourself. Like if you can put on a timer for 10 minutes and write down, I want everything you desire, and just take a minute to like list your own needs.
In the vein of sex or just in life? Like I want.
It could be either. I think both. Because I think that's what the one thing as women we don't do enough of is like think about what our own needs are. And if you even just start thinking that way, then maybe you'll be like, oh yeah, and I do want to have some orgasms too.
Oh, okay.
Add that to your list, ladies.
Maybe
Okay.
I would like to be, my body to be touched, and that feels good, right? By my husband, not necessarily a kid who needs something.
Sure. Okay. So that's number 1. Write down things you want. I like that.
And one of the things I did want to mention too that I didn't is, when we were talking about the different ways people connect, I'm sure many people out there have probably heard of the 5 love languages. There's basically like, so some person maybe likes physical touch, but another person doesn't. So if you like touch and you're touching your partner and they don't like that, then there's a miscommunication. And there's a beautiful quiz out there where it's kind of like your erotic blueprint. So it's the same thing, but it's like on how you relate to each other sexually.
Oh.
And so the woman who
fun.
has, it's so great. And her name is Jaya, Jaiya. So you can go to her website and do the quiz for free. But it's just I always share that because I feel like so many couples are like, oh, well, that makes total sense.
Oh, I love that.
So when I approach him this way, it's no wonder he's not into it. Or when I approach her this way, then you learn how to approach each other in a way that it can be received, right?
Oh.
That's the part of the 5 love language. We'll get
Well,
into
it's
that
not
later.
really the love language, but anyways, so it's
Okay.
called your erotic blueprint for
Okay.
on Jaya. So do that quiz because that's going to help you and connect
On
you
it.
with your partner. And
I
then-
also love the name on Jaya, and I think it might be what I call my vagina from now on. On
You
Jaya.
I'm kind of into it.
It's like very sensual. I'm into it.
yeah, and
On
then
Jaya Egg.
And then also, take some time to connect with that part of you, I'd say. If it's with the Yoni Egg, if it's just, acknowledging that you are a woman with a, whatever you like to call it. I personally.
On Jaya.
Yeah. Because I think that's something too we don't ever connect with. And I think that's important just be grateful for it. Like the fact that it
Whoa,
gave you
yeah.
kids.
What do you call it?
I call it a pussy because
She
I do love
does.
that word. I have reclaimed it. And I remember when I first heard the word, it used to make me cringe, right? When people would say pussy, I would cringe.
yeah, I
So
don't
those
love
of you
it.
out there that are cringing, just know it's okay. But there's a reclamation because I feel like there's so many different names you can call it. And first of
And
all,
let's face it, vagina isn't the sexiest one.
and
I
vagina
mean,
is really the canal,
the
right?
inside,
So
yeah.
the external genitalia is your vulva,
Which is
all
not
the
a good.
things.
I way prefer pussy to vulva.
So it's just
Vulva's
finding one
the
that you
worst.
like. I mean, I think if you have kids, you want to always teach them the proper anatomical terms, but you can also have your fun play names too.
none of it sounds good. Clitoris doesn't sound good.
I don't like that
Vulva-
word
none-
either.
You know,
none
and
of
then
it.
there's the yoni, the like tantric term yoni, which is like your sacred space.
Super into
which is-
yoni.
Let's
I
call
like
it a yoni.
Yoni is very beautiful.
Now, really quick though, because
Connect
this
with
is
your
just how
yoni.
my brain thinks. Like if you wanted to buy a jade egg, can you just get it on Amazon, or is there like a secret place that you should do it where it's like clean and like blessed and actually jade? Or
Exactly. I would say
Do you bless Yoni eggs?
I do, as a matter of fact. I sell them. So you
Oh,
can
you
go to
sell-
my
oh,
website.
This is the perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so
Great.
it's amandatesta.com. But that is true because you want to make sure that it's, from an ethically produced place. It's actually jade, all that good stuff.
Will you take a breeder hat for a Yoni
Yeah,
egg?
can we trade you some breeder merch?
Surely.
Literally all we have. We could buy it, sure.
I definitely will buy it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Okay, and then okay. So that's
Wait. So what's the third?
Yeah, what's the third?
Oh,
thing?
yeah. And so we have writing the things you want to do, right?
Doing the quiz.
Doing Jade's quiz, connecting with your yoni, and that would be 3. But I would share too, creating that time to connect with your partner on a regular basis and taking the goals out of the equation, right? So you're just going to have this playtime. Like I have another woman who I love, Susan Bratton, and she calls it the erotic play date. I'm like, that kind of sounds fun, right? Or whatever makes it sound fun and exciting, something that you want to do, not something you dread or something you have to do, but something that is going to be pleasurable for the both of you.
And mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But you do think like setting aside time is a good thing.
Because otherwise it won't happen. And then, it's just like when you make a date with a friend or with anyone, it's like, it's taking that time, shows the both of you that you're important to me. Our relationship is important. Because if you don't, it's like anything, you have to put time and effort there.
Okay, Amanda, how many dates do you have to set? Is it weekly? What do we
How many times a week?
We'll go back
Amanda?
to pleasure is the measure, however many works for you.
Pleasure is the measure.
But I would say, try to do it at least weekly if you can.
At
once a
least
week.
weekly? That means more.
Just once a week, if you can start there, or
That's a good goal.
That is just for like a half hour.
because we get so busy with our lives and all the to-dos, we forget that our partner is someone we like.
I think that's so true. I mean, I'm just thinking about all my girlfriends and all the wine talks and everything. Like you just forget that you actually like, you love them, but you actually like them. And you actually like to be around them.
And I forget that my husband needs to hear how much I like him. Like he knows I love him. He knows I'm committed.
Sure.
He knows we love our children. But it is, it's nice when he reminds me of that same thing, obviously. But as somebody who can do something proactive to enhance the relationship, it is nice to remind them how much you like them and how much you like their dick.
That too.
Yeah. That too.
Mom, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
But that's the thing too, if you want your kids to see what a healthy relationship looks like, and sex is part of that. So really, how
But
bad
you
is
don't
it
want
if
your
they
kids
hear-
to see sex.
Well, I mean, not necessarily.
Yours.
But if
Certainly
they,
not.
if they accidentally walk in on you, you can
Sure.
just answer that in an age appropriate way. But that is part of a healthy relationship, and so they need to know that, and I feel like they need to.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I
They
think
can
the
see
more your kids
affection
and see you laughing together and see you like hugging and kissing, I think are all strong things to build a strong family for sure. I mean, you're open to do it with your kids, but
Right.
we don't do it with our spouses.
And if you're a single mom and that was my microphone. If you're a single mom and you are exploring people to be in your world, in your relationship, I mean, I think that trying to keep that information from your kids as you fall in love with someone and bring someone into your world is probably a whole other thing. And you really should can be open about, I guess, that too. It's got to be difficult.
Yeah.
and everybody's got their own values around what they want to share and what they don't. So I just respect that. But I think our kids do like us to be vulnerable and honest with them as well. So,
Age appropriately. That's
for
where we're
sure.
at right now. Like
Yeah.
we just feel like there's things she just won't get that she started to ask. And we're
Yeah.
like,
I'm probably
"Yeah."
not going to show her my new Jade Egg anytime soon.
No.
She's like, is this chalk? This looks like Easter chalk.
Rock collection. Sure.
Like, give me back my Jade Egg. Amanda, you're amazing. And what you do for moms and women and couples is amazing. And, congratulations on discovering such a unique and powerful way to help people.
Thank
It's
God you
totally
got
awesome.
depressed and down on yourself, because look at what happened.
I guess that's true.
And so people can tell us like all the ways that people can find out about you. And you're not, even though you're located in Denver, you can work with anybody anywhere, right?
Yeah, I work with clients all over the globe, thanks to technology, which I love.
And you have a podcast.
I do have a podcast. It's called Find Your Feminine Fire podcast, and we talk all about sex and relationships. And you can find me on my website. It's amandatesta.com, Testa. And I got lots of good stuff on there. YouTube channel with, there's
Jade Eggs.
Jade Eggs are on my website. So, yeah.
That's great. We'll put all this in our notes on the episode.
Well,
if you
thank
can find.
you so much for joining
thank you
us.
so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
We are on tour. We're on tour.
We got a tour
We're on
update.
tour.
So we've been home for a couple weeks. We're home for a couple weeks more, and then we're off to Iowa City.
Yes.
And then after that, we have Sacramento and San Jose, and that
Concludes the fall.
that concludes 2018.
Then we have Hanukkah and Christmas.
And birthdays, both of us have like
Kid
winter baby
birthdays.
birthdays.
And then we go on the road with 21 shows,
Yep.
January through June, which is very exciting. And we start in January in Florida, 2 places, Fort Lauderdale, which we've been to before, and Orlando, which we've never been to. So
And the Hard Rock Live.
The Hard Rock
it's gonna
Live
be
in
super
Orlando.
fun. I mean, what better place to kick off than in Florida in January? It's a real treat for us to come out and see
Pretty
you guys.
excited.
It'll be warm and humid. But yeah, so our tour is really exciting. Tickets are on sale now. Check our website, our Insta page. I mean, our dates are everywhere. We have all the event pages on our Facebook page.
And
Buy
we
your tickets.
started a brand new thing that we're super stoked about.
Yes.
For years, we've been trying to kind of figure out, we've had organizations reach out. We've always wanted to work with organizations, and it's hard to find the right thing when you're in so many cities and you have so many different kinds of moms and you really want to include everybody. And so we
To
decided,
like give back. How do we give back?
right. So we've decided that we're going to give the first 5 schools in each city that we're touring to an opportunity to make our show a fundraising night, and we're going to donate $2 per ticket sold to that school. So
We're giving straight back to the schools, to the communities that we're going to, and it feels right.
yeah, so like if you're in Orlando, for example, and you want to raise money for your school, all you got to do is share the information about the show, and then people send us
Well,
their
you have to contact us because we got to get
Sure,
you
yeah.
locked in so we know how to work with you. We have a fundraise page on our website.
the pumpanddumpshow.com/fundraise.
Yeah.
And so you can get the details there. But essentially what'll happen is you can just tell people about the show and they can buy tickets and come. You don't have to like buy a block of tickets or worry
Yeah,
that you have to organize.
no.
Like the show's already, the fundraiser has already been made.
We are your entertainment.
You just,
Yeah, but you can
Get
if you.
people to come.
I mean, so many schools have really engaged parents. So many people like to do stuff together. It's a great way to get to know the other moms in your schools or dads. Like it'll be a fun parents' night out.
and then we'll send you a check.
Yeah, there's already, and we've already had people reaching out. So we're capping it at 5 just so we can keep it organizationally make sense. But there's already a school in Huntington, New York that's planning on getting a party bus for all the parents to come and see our show. So could be really fun, and we're really excited to write y'all checks. So reach out if you are in charge of, or someone who's in charge of like fundraising for your school.
Sure. I know how much our school needs that stuff.
I mean, every little bit counts, man.
So we're going to go to Iowa and the other cities. We're going to take a little break and then we'll be back. But we're going to be doing the podcast through.
We'll be apparently.
And we've also got all of our new merch up now.
Oh yeah. Got fun new t-shirts. We've got breeder hats.
Oh, and good news. We've got, we asked our stage manager, Archie, if he wanted to continue working with us. We said, hey,
yes.
Arch. Yeah. And he said, yes. We said, here's the rest of the dates. Are you still in?
Really, we were a little scared.
And he's in, you guys.
I
And he
know,
was like
Archie.
excited.
He's so wonderful.
And he really is so good. And we're like, really? You spent a significant amount of time with us on the road. And
we're not as crazy as we think.
he wants to do it. I'm so excited.
I mean, our backs might actually survive this next tour because we have an extra set of hands.
He actually sets up our stuff and runs the show. And
This has never happened before.
he's amazing. And so we're
Yeah.
so grateful, Archie, if you're listening to this,
Podcast about mom sex.
mom-centric to this mom sex podcast. We
Like
appreciate
this lovely
you.
young man with the whole world in front of him. Don't
I know.
listen, Archie. Just
We love you.
We do love you. Yep. So that's our tour update.
But we've also had a lot of people ask us, if we went to the city before, like, is the show different?
Oh, right.
And I think it's important to just to tell you that we have given the whole show a facelift. We have
an extreme
injected
makeover.
We have injected filler and really,
Giving her
really
highlights.
enhanced. We have highlights.
Spray tan.
We've upped the show. We got an amazing director, and her name is Kristen Goodman, by the way. She's located in Santa Fe, and she's amazing.
She's
and
an awesome breeder.
We've kept a lot of songs and a lot of things, but we've really like shaped the show, added new things. It's a new experience, and so you can't really ever do the Pump and Dump show without Eat Your Fucking Food. Like that's just not
Right.
going to happen. But imagine you're going to see your favorite band, and they're going to play a song that you want to hear.
Love in here. Yeah. So it's a good time. It's going to be in big, beautiful theaters. Don't worry, ladies. There's cocktails available in all the theaters.
Yeah.
And on big, fun stages, and it's comfortable, and it's going to be a really fun mom's night out. So book your tickets now. Don't look back. We all know that it takes 17 months to plan a girls' night and get everyone's schedules together. So do it now and
We'll see
look
you in
forward
your
to
city.
it in the new year.